All right, it is lights out on what is today? March 8th,
Yeah,
2021.
a little
Is it
off.
already March? Holy.
It's already March. And before you know, it'll be end of quarter one.
Oh boy. Um well, it is March 8th. It is a Monday. I was ill yesterday, so we did not record on our normal Sunday recording time, so I apologize for the late podcast. My name is Nick. That is Matt.
What's
And
up?
I say
Head on
well,
into roll and start.
yeah, let's hit the road.
Got a lot. It seems like every week we have more and more things to talk about. So we'll have to see if we can move, even to move quick through all this. There's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I think as things start coming back on, right? Racing and you know, a lot of aviation news is popping out every day. So there's a lot of stuff and that I think we're picking up on every week, frankly. So.
Yeah.
With that, you want to get us started, Nick, with FCA and Stellantis, EVs and whatnot?
Yeah, so Stellantis or in general Peugeot, who's a part of Stellantis, has really been pushing on Chrysler to drop the whole hey, we're gonna build these really ridiculously unaerodynamic but really high horsepower cars and start pushing towards EVs.
Boo.
It, as long as the
Porque no
SRTs,
las dos.
I think the only thing that could make it better would be if you put a Elephant engine in a Challenger, but then also gave it an EV powertrain so that it can take off the line even faster and do full blown wheelies.
Could you imagine?
That would be insane.
Could
Um,
you imagine that monstrosity?
that yeah, 1,000
I mean,
horsepower plus 1,000 horsepower EV, so you got
I
a
don't think
2,000
we're gonna see
horsepower.
that,
No,
but
no, of
it
course
makes
not. But
sense. I mean,
it would be the only way that I'd be happy, though.
I would agree. It makes sense for the push. I mean, with we talk, it's every week we're talking about EV stuff, right? And obviously that's the way things are going with trends, even more so now than ever. We think the pandemic has kind of really helped reshape a lot of trends in that, especially I think in that realm. But I'd hate to see, you know, I don't want to see only EVs just yet. I still want to see the nutso creations from FCA, frankly, for time to come. But hopefully, they'll push back a little bit and keep that stuff for a little bit longer.
That would be the hope.
However, I mean
um,
there are some wacko electric creations.
and when we say wacko,
The one
we mean wacko in good ways. Um,
wacko and go like just insane engineering come to mind unless you're rolling it over off of a hill on a hill climb.
uh,
Rimacs are incredible, right? So
yeah,
shout out
and
to Richard Hammond.
yeah, um,
But apparently, you told me about this, Nick. Porsche is a now a quarter owner in Rimac.
yeah. So they bought. I can't remember if it was exactly a quarter or almost a quarter, but it was anywhere between 20 and 25% of Rimac. So
That's incredible. I mean, Porsche is clear. I mean, I we were talking about this before that we started recording, right? Porsche is clearly going in a direction. I mean, they're known for, as I think I'll always say, like it's the standard by which automobiles should be compared. Performance automobiles, sports cars, and whatnot. However, with we talked. I think it was last week you were talking about them creating their own, their own like green fuel and so on, and some things we'll talk about later on with their electric cars and e-bikes and so on. They're really leaning into the green, and I think it's good, right? Into green technology, green, clearly companies, EVs. I like where things are headed. Frankly,
yeah,
not sure where that will take
I do
form within
too.
their road cars, but
Yeah, it's and again in the same vein as FCA getting pushed into EVs, I hope that Porsche does come up with a biofuel so that we can keep
that'd be
around
awesome.
the amazing sounding flat sixes.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's still a changing world. Let's see what happens. I'm all set. I'm all for EVs, but you got to question what about the charging infrastructure? Like, here in the U.S., uh, we don't have the same kind of awesome charging infrastructure in Europe that they have. So
But beyond
it'll
that,
get
it's
better over
also time
time.
frame. How do you charge a battery in X amount of time.
I mean, there are battery swaps. Maybe jump a couple things here, but I did see that Tesla used to be interested in battery swaps, and apparently, I think recently a spokesperson for the company essentially said that they're no longer interested in doing battery swap technology and for pursuing it. That they think that the best way to charge their vehicles is standard, like just recharging their vehicles batteries, and that's what they want to hone in on. I think that could be a way, but there is a new consortium that was formed between Honda, Yamaha, KTM, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Piaggio. They've created, or they've all signed letters of intent to create a consortium. I think this was last week, Wednesday ish. I remember reading about it to create and viable battery swapping technology for light electric vehicles and motorcycle batteries. So, there's a lot of ways to forge the path between still, I guess, battery swapping, better charging infrastructure. Who really knows how this is going to take shape, frankly? I think we're kind of in the Wild West when you know?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely interesting.
I want to hear your thoughts on something that you brought up here too, and as we continue down Rolling Start. Not only is there a microchip shortage, but and on that news, I think you put here that there's a Bosch is entering the microchip game now to kind of help with the shortages we're seeing in the automotive
Yeah, so
manufacturing
Bosch
sector.
is currently looking into um, their overall technology and their semiconductor plans to start
Mhm.
getting into this um, chipset game, which Bosch already has a hand in almost everything. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
their
mean,
German
they can get a hand
semiconductor
here.
plant is really deeply looking into and entering testing in the automotive sector
I
to
mean, think of the
help with this
opportunity.
chip shortage. Yeah.
The giant. We've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast here. The shortages that the industry's seeing industry wide. I mean, there's no better, if you've got, the capability already in place, to make semiconductors, that's not something you can, I guess, you just start in the back of your garage, maybe, but if they've got the infrastructure to do so, it's a great market to enter to kind of pick up these huge gaps in the mid market right now for these chips. But apparently, that's not the only shortage going on right now.
No,
Interesting one that I'm reading here. Seafoam.
supposedly there's also a seat foam shortage. Yes, not sea foam like what you use to spray out carburetors. Seat, as in what you sit on. Seat foam shortage.
I mean, and seafoam. I mean, I wouldn't think that's something very special. It's just very arguably just really dense foam that you wrap leather around or cloth. Like there's a seat foam shortage in the auto industry.
Yeah, so it's actually an article by Sebastian Blanco in Car and Driver that I'm pulling some of this information from. But essentially, um, the refinery, oil refinery byproducts are used to create that foam.
Hmm.
It's a petroleum product, which,
I mean,
um,
what isn't technically at this point?
right nowadays, what isn't? But apparently, this all leads back to Texas. And when the grid got shut down, refineries shut down. When refineries shut down, Texas is the largest producer of seat foam for major United States and some um,
Interesting.
other brands. So we're talking General Motors, Stellantis, Toyota, BMW, Hyundai, and Kia all buy their foam from Texas suppliers.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's something that is easy. I would. That doesn't sound like you would. I think you would think it would be easily replaced, but I don't really think that it would be easily replaced. I would imagine it's got to be a. I mean, obviously, probably like what a certified, very dense, long-lasting kind of foam. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that's not something you can just shove cotton balls to replace. So
Well, no,
How
and
do
then
you?
you could look back in the days of, say, our 31 Ford Model A, which
Mhm.
had, in some cases, raw unprocessed cotton that may or may not have had bugs in it that then you had bug infestations in your car from the factory. I
I
mean,
mean, how do you? I don't really know how you. What are your choices if Texas is the largest? I mean, I would assume they're probably getting back to production now with Texas's
yeah,
grid
but it was a
being.
huge setback.
I mean, that's put that on a list of stuff that you when you're driving your car, you literally probably no one's ever thought twice about. Frankly, you know,
Yep.
of all the things that go into an automobile, I've never thought about. I think about what like vegetable leather before for seats versus hides of animals. Before I think about the foam that I'm sitting on. I mean, wow, that's kind of really interesting. I think. Hopefully that I would hope that they're going to ramp up production to kind of meet demand and meet these make up for these gaps, but that's not the only thing that I read something in relation to Texas as well. I think you put it on here, but Tesla is, I think, intending to make what sounds like a giant battery to plug into the Texas grid to store power based on the events that we saw in the state of Texas. Did I have that right?
Yeah, are either they have or they're planning to. Um,
Of course, Tesla, just doing fun stuff. Let's just make a giant battery to store power. I mean, can't say maybe before the grid shortages and what happened in Texas a little while ago, I'd say that's crazy, but kind of makes sense now, frankly.
yeah, they're calling it a secret mega battery, but I don't. They're calling Tesla's calling that themselves as they're being interviewed. But I'm reading. So this one is it's an article from Bloomberg. Let me find who the author is here real quick. By
Can I say that I don't really feel like I'd want to go the size of what or the power contained within that battery. I don't feel like I'd want to go near it.
oh, I absolutely would not.
I
So
want to
it's
take
the
a wide berth
they
around
call
it.
it the Gambit Battery Project.
The
40
Gambit
miles outside of
battery
Houston.
project.
This is an article in Bloomberg by Dana Hull. Um, but essentially, yeah, they are in the process of building it. But why? I don't understand why they keep calling it a secret if it's everybody knows about it. It's not a secret at that point. It, it yeah, I guess it's supposed to be 100 megawatt. I'm not sure of my MWs and what uppercase lowercase
Neither
means,
am
but
I.
um,
I mean, that wouldn't put it past Tesla to do something like it, but I
no, and
mean,
apparently they did something like it
w-
in Australia back in
does it say what the
2017.
intended use is? Is it to store energy long term, or is it to power?
It's essentially to pump energy back into the grid.
That's one heck of a battery. That's definitely not a
Yeah,
double
yeah, no,
A.
that's much larger. What would that be? A single A? They get bigger with less A's, right? Yeah,
I don't know. Only thing that comes to mind is like a big C battery or a big D battery.
yeah. We're talking
I don't
F
know, all the
cells.
fun batteries we get to use at least. Not I don't think a lot of electronics use that at least I come in contact with use those kinds of batteries anymore. But
No, not a ton.
that's I mean, hey, I'm gonna say like I said, I think last couple weeks ago I would have said that's crazy. Now seems like it's worth it, frankly, with what we saw in Texas. Who knows when a grid could go down or when that power is going to be needed? Frankly, you never know.
Yeah,
I think it sounds like a good idea. I'll have to see what happens with it. Frankly.
yeah. I'm gonna hit these next
Well,
2 points super quick because they're just kind of updates
yeah. What else we
and
got?
something I found a little funny.
Still a bunch to go, and we're like start. Yeah.
Kia, I don't know if it's pronounced the Niro or the Niro, but their electric crossover. They had a price point adjustment that they wanted to get out into the public, just so you knew that they were in fact changing their
Mhm.
prices. The price is going up, by a
Of
solid
course.
Benjamin Franklin, $100.
One
Um,
hundred US dollars.
100, yes, 100 US dollars. That is all they
Why
are
is that
increasing the
even
price by, but they put out a huge notice with apologies saying that they had to do it. I don't understand why
why?
$100 is a big deal. That's going to come out in taxes anyway.
I mean, in buying a car, that's nothing. I mean, okay, that I don't get that at all. But all right.
They made a big stink
Maybe
out of
it's
it.
in the interest of being transparent, and if that's what it is, then good on them. Frankly, that's
Yeah.
huh. I
Um.
am not upset at that hunt. Something like a 5 grand upcharge might get me. But you know what? I don't care. I'll give you your extra $100.
Right.
That doesn't matter to me. Jeez,
Um.
that's wow.
Yeah. So we had that. And then obviously here in the States, and in Canada, I believe, as well as Mexico, maybe we have Acura, which is
hmm
the luxury version
I think it's
of
North
Honda.
America. Yeah,
I would say it's
North
probably a North
America.
American thing. I don't think there's very many Acura. I don't think there are any Acuras outside of North America. But it to us it is
Honda's
Honda's
luxury brand.
luxury brand. To others, it is
Honda.
exactly Honda.
Oh, Honda or Acura NSX. I guess what? Because Americans or North American buyers wouldn't buy a really expensive Honda, but they'd buy an Acura. So because we make a whole lot of sense over here. Yep,
Right, and
that's
well, and
for
the
sure.
Acura logo is still just an H because if you notice, it never touches at the
I
top.
I never noticed. I think you were the first person a long time ago to point that out to me, and I find it hilarious, frankly, to this day.
But
It's
either
still amazing.
way, Acura. Um, here in the States, we have the Acura RLX. In Japan, it is the Honda Legend. And the Honda Legend, the Acura RLX is the larger version of, or the more fancy version of the Accord. And
hmm Oh, yeah, I got you.
so the Honda Legend is like the upper trim level
hmm
of the Accord over there, or I guess it's similar to the Accord. Um, while the Accord has a different, um, the Accord is its own car over there. The Legend is essentially the Acura, same body panels and everything. But the Honda Legend is testing fully autonomous driving in Japan right now. So
Mm.
that means we may see that in years to come here in North America as well in the Acura
I don't,
RLX.
I don't think I'm in favor of that. I mean, it's one thing to have these fan. There are a lot of car companies that don't even have great driver aids compared to others with like lane keep, center assist, and I think I was reading or I saw something on Jalopnik weeks ago where a Tesla even with its autopilot swerved almost into the median of a road to avoid a car that was performing like a normal passing maneuver. And I don't really think I trust. It's gonna be a long time before I'm think I'm comfortable with fully autonomous driving, frankly. Let alone, it's one thing even to be inside, in my opinion. One thing I'm not even I'm less afraid of it being like in the vehicle of it, but those vehicles being around me, you know? It's one thing. You can't account for the actions of other drivers, let alone computers as well. So I don't really have a current favorable opinion of autonomous driving yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
The technology will get better, certainly, but hmm.
I'm excited for the technology. I don't know if it's something I'd ever use.
That too,
Although,
right? I think like you and I, like we both enjoy driving, like
yeah,
legitimately enjoy driving. I wouldn't want something to take that away from me, you know? I mean, I get to some people, a car is an engine and four wheels. It gets you from point A to point B, and that's fine. But for petrol heads, gearheads, people who enjoy driving and it relaxes them, I don't ever see using that. I would not want to be driven unless I'm being driven, like in a cab or an Uber or by a driver of some kind. And even then, I don't think I'd ever want to hire a driver. I like driving too much, you know. I mean,
yeah,
well, that's interesting. I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe Acura here in the States or North America would be the first to debut in years to come. this autonomous driving. Who knows?
Well, we've got GM Super Cruise already.
Yeah, that's not fully autonomous driving though. Technically, is it?
It's hands-free autonomous.
So then, what's the difference? I guess.
I guess fully autonomous would mean that you don't even have to have someone in the driver's seat.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. How
At
do you
the
go through
very least,
McDonald's
can't they
drive-thrus
provide?
then?
Well, then I guess you got to bring George. Everyone's got to have you got to have a button that has a blow up dial that just inflates.
The
and
the
sits in the
autopilot
background.
OTTO
The
from
the
Airplane.
exactly. Oh man. Well, moving on down before that gets into a tangent.
Yeah.
Oh boy, because you have a hilarious movie combined with don't even get me started on all. I love watching that movie, picking out all the things that don't make sense about it.
I think that's part of the fun of it. But before we get off on that tangent, I'm gonna keep us on track because we have a very tight schedule today.
Porsche Taycan Crosstrairs. We got some more first looks. I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but we got some additional information. It sounds like on the new.
I don't
Porsche.
hate the new electric green that they have for it though.
You don't or do?
I do not hate it.
Oh, I'd agree. I'm really liking. There's not unless it's a really bright, obnoxious like a limey green. I like a lot of different shades of green I'm finding on automobiles.
Yeah, you're just not a fan of was it Python green or?
Yeah, Matt. There's just something like that was like too Crayola pastel kind of shades. If it's like a dark or like a dark gloss or a flat or a really like a flat, like a flat dark earth. I mean, or like the Taycan Cross Turismo's green. It's a lot of different shades. There's a lot of shades of green I like, and some that I don't. But I still like the car. I think it looks great. I mean,
I do too, and I'm excited for it, especially since I'm a huge fan of the Panamera.
Yeah.
The second and
such a
third
big
generation
fan of
Panamera,
but I can
not the
appreciate
first
it.
generation.
Yeah, I mean, the first generation was atrocious. But with that, Porsche has debuted another new thing. Apparently, Porsche has they've debuted 2 new e-bikes, something that I am not 100% familiar with, but apparently Porsche now has something called the e-bike Sport and the e-bike Cross, I think it's called. Let me pull up the press release from, if I can find it, from Porsche. Apparently, they're $10,000 e-bikes.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And the funny thing is, it's funny you mentioned that green Taycan Cosmo, that the Porsche apparently has quote figure out how to charge you $10,700 for a bicycle, a carbon fiber e-bike to stick on the back of your $100,000 Porsche Taycan Crosser. No, I think it's kind of hilarious, but apparently there's 2 of them. That's the more expensive one. The cheaper one is $8,500, give or take. It's like a mountain bike. It sounds like they're both carbon fiber. They're both full suspension and they're flat bar. I don't fully get these things, frankly, but apparently Germany is a hub of the e-bike industry. I didn't know that, frankly.
yeah, well, Germany's been huge in biking. By the way, this does also have built-in Porsche headlights and taillights. So,
I mean, it's cool, but I mean, in classic Porsche fashion, I mean, it's pretty darn expensive, right?
yeah.
I say I don't really have a whole lot of interest in bikes, but I mean, as listeners know, I think we have to pay attention to this because it's Porsche. So,
Of course, anything Porsche, we love to talk about.
it seems like though the new stuff that what I think I'm seeing too is these things seem kind of incredible in their own right, but they were kind of like overshadowed with the release of new details about new images and that green of the Cross Turismo. So, interesting. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how these things sell. Frankly, I'm sure there'll be buyers.
Oh, I'm sure there will be as well. Absolutely.
I mean, they look. I mean, in classic Porsche fashion, they look great. So
they do.
We'll see.
I've never ridden an e-bike, but I would be happy to try one out.
Porsche, if you're listening, we'll give them a shot. Turn
Yeah,
these non bike lovers into bike lovers.
exactly.
Well,
Um,
moving on down, I think I got a couple more things here. Some good news, two more things. So some new news out of the EV going away from petrol powered things. Apparently, a city in California here in the states is the first city in the U.S. to the ban the builds of new gas stations. So the a California city of Petaluma has their city council apparently thinks that their city has enough gas stations, petrol stations, and they have it looks like unanimously that city council voted to ban new gas stations, which is built on a 2-year moratorium that was already passed in 2019. Sounds like there's one final vote to go, and there are no more new gas stations in that city. Now, I'm looking it up on Google. It looks like Petaluma is about 15 square miles, which is 39 square kilometers in size, and it's already home to 16 gas stations with another one that's apparently approved, so will be 17. And there's only 61,000 residents in said city. So I guess it kind of makes sense. There is a point where you don't need that many gas stations, but I wonder what kind of precedent that'll set, frankly, especially with the last thing I want to talk about in Rolling Start. That looks like down in there's a couple of energy companies, moving along with the infrastructure and the changing infrastructure for electric cars in the States here. It looks like there is a consortium. I like that word. It's a fun word. But there's a couple about five. It looks like energy essentially companies in the south would be southeastern, I think, like Florida, Texas, the Alabama, Mississippi, that kind of stuff. There's going to be a big block of states are getting a new charging infrastructure being built. So we know here in the states our EV charging infrastructure just sucks, frankly. It Europe's is amazing, and it sounds like these companies are coming together to create a network of charging stations. I'm not sure what it's called. Let me pull. Is it written by Angel Lopnik, Jose Rodriguez Jr.? Apparently, it's going to be called the Electric Highway Coalition. Is this going to be made up by American Electric Power, Dominion Energy, Duke Energy, Entergy Corporation, Southern Company, and Tennessee Valley Authority. It looks like it's going to be stretching from, like I said, Texas, even up until like Indiana, Indiana and Ohio through Tennessee, like a whole large chunk of the state. So could be the first real step towards getting a much better EV charging infrastructure here in the state for a big chunk of the U.S. Frankly, it's cool.
that absolutely would be cool.
I fully so that's my only like that's one of my main two gripes about EVs is the charging network. And I mean, if we're starting to take steps to kind of shore that up, we'll again changing trends. It's fast. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of a completion time. I'm sure that it's a many multi-year project, but
Yeah.
it's at least a step, right? So it's everything starts with a first step.
Yeah.
So
I am.
apparently, these charging stations, the proposed charging stations, will provide DC fast chargers that can get drivers back on the road in approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Now, that's far away from, a couple minute fill at a petrol station, but that's a big deal. 20 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, especially um with a lot of the new infotainment systems in these electric cars.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you
don't
you could
really
sit
know how
and
it's going to
watch a
work, but
episode of a TV show while your car charges, and then you just be back on the road. I mean, that's
yeah, I mean, I always thought you'd have to sit at, eat a bag of chips or a bag of crisps for those overseas, right, and watch a whole movie to wait for your car to charge. I think it changes the game a little bit if you just have to watch a 20-minute, 30-minute television episode and then you're out your way.
right.
I that's I wouldn't necessarily mind that as much if I was really I could catch up on, not sponsored at all, but I could catch up on the latest episode of WandaVision on Disney Plus while I charge my car.
Yeah, something that I have not started yet.
Neither have I. That's the first thing that came to my head. So,
Okay.
with that, I think that's all we have in rolling chat. So you want to head into paddock chat here? Talk about
I
some automotive racing.
Yeah, let's move on into paddock chat, which
Well,
I'm
controversial topic.
yeah, I'm
No more champagne in F1.
no more, no more champagne, which is
It's
what?
kind of a big deal.
but the
So,
but the the winner's circle and
so
and
I when I first read this, it was from I think I read it from F1. I can't remember from, but I remember reading that there isn't going to be any more like celebrations and spraying of beverages on the podiums this year, but it's just not going to be champagne. So it sounds like the F1 has since 2017. F1 is the winners on the podium have sprayed oh, what's the company? I think it's carbon or something like that. Was the brand?
hmm,
I think. And so it sounds like that deal is up now. And on Tuesday, there was last week there was an announcement that Ferrari Trento has been named the official sparkling wine of the Formula One championship. I don't know if that's has anything to do technically with the Ferrari we all think of,
it was
but
it was
I don't really
Moet
know
and
to be honest.
Shannon, Moet and Shannon was the well, and the I guess I don't know what
I
you would
think the
call.
producer was Carbon, but that was
Yeah,
the actual champagne. But it sounds like there's still going to be celebrations of a carbonated beverage of sorts. It just this year, and I'm not sure for at least for the next few years, I remember reading, it's going to be sparkling white wine instead of champagne. So definitely a weird change, but I don't really think it'll be that big of a deal once we see. As long as you could still spray someone in the face and get them soaked, I don't care.
very true.
That's the most important part. Well,
Of
moving
course.
on along with here, I think I saw the FIA official released new dates for the 89th 24 Hours of Le Mans. Looks like it, with COVID and everything had to be rescheduled. Looks like it was supposed to take place on June 12th through the 13th, and has now been rescheduled for August 21st through to the 22nd of 2021. So we'll be eagerly awaiting, obviously, that racing event, historic racing event, needless to say. So
Yeah.
good news there. F1 confirmed its final GP for the new season. We are going back uh, to a Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao, which is cool. I think it's a great track personally. I like it. There's a lot of great a lot of great cornering action at Portimao, so I'm pretty happy to see it back. Frankly, I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, Nick, but finally have a
No,
full calendar.
I'm excited to potentially see a race that isn't as wet on that track.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, was that the race where they were driving personal cars to drive the track the night
No, no, no,
before?
no. That was
I can't remember.
no. I believe that was that the Turkish Grand Prix?
That it was Turkish. I think it was Turkish.
Yeah, I think it was too. But
Nonetheless, I think this one's taking place. Well, the start of the season's coming soon. I think it's March 28th, right? For those who
yes.
are, I think this one's April 30th is when Portimao would start. I think that was the last remaining spot on the F1 schedule for this year that wasn't confirmed. But yeah, so we're coming up to start of the season here pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we've got March 28th, April 18th, May 9th. Let's figure out where this is falling
I
in
remember reading
because
that Formula E, there won't be another Formula E race, I think, until April 10th as well. So we'll be eagerly awaiting that one as well.
yeah,
I want to save the liveries last, if you don't mind.
that's okay.
But
We can
some
say that.
cool stuff. We have some new safety cars for this year, and they look fantastic. There are new safety and medical cars for the 2021 season. They will be, I don't know in what cadence they'll be used, what will be used, whose cars will be used at what races, I cannot remember. But Mercedes will have a red colored AMG, I believe, or what are they
It's a
supplying?
red accent color.
Red
Oh,
accent color. What are they providing? What are they? What is their car? I can't remember. What are they
I'm
providing
sorry. You're
this
talking
year?
about the safety cars.
Yeah, what's Mercedes providing this year for their safety car?
The safety car is going to be the what is it? The AMG GT, and
Ah,
then
that's it.
and
Yeah,
then the
the medical car I can't
E63
remember.
AMG wagon for the medical car.
And for Aston, they are going to be providing. What are they
Is it
providing?
the DB9 or the DBS?
I can't remember. And whatever I don't then whatever their SUV is. I don't know what their SUV is called. Frankly, I don't
Um,
remember.
the SUV is the DBX, and then I
So that
believe
and their
actually, you know what? I
DB.
believe they're doing the Vantage.
Okay. I think you're right. But we're looking at. I'm looking at a picture here. I love the red, frankly, on the Merc on the GT, but the Aston Martin Racing Green with like the lime green accent under the grill of the front grill of the Vantage, if that's what it is. They're beautiful. It's cool to see an Astons as the medical cars and safety cars, frankly. So hopefully there won't be a whole lot of use for them, either of them, this season. But nonetheless, the safety and medical cars will again look fantastic.
Now, the only thing I had to say about these, besides the fact that they are both gorgeous, although I am leaning towards the Aston, and that just might be because it's the new one.
100%. 100% agree.
Although I do also just love the way that Astons look. Um,
They're beautiful cars.
very beautiful cars. I know a lot of people were upset about it being a crossover of the DBX for the medical
Uh-huh.
car, but they didn't have a
Really?
wagon. So what else were we gonna do? But the number one thing that I was gonna say about this is on the Mercs, there is a sponsor on the medical car on the side. It is a company called CrowdStrike, and I
Yeah.
really thought that was a Mustang thing, but apparently we're gonna get into striking crowds with the Merc. That's a joke. That is sarcasm. Except for the part about Mustangs hitting crowds. That seems to happen way too often.
Especially out of Supercar Saturdays.
Or Cars and Coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We love
Yeah.
Supercar Saturdays,
Those
but
are crowd killers.
oh god, oh man, that's I got it. That's that's pretty funny. Well,
But anyway,
moving on. Moving on down, we had a whole bunch of car releases this over the past week. I want to say that's up to the end though. Apparently, from what I've been reading, we had Haas seems to be almost writing off their 2021 season. I was reading an article that was provided by I think F1 on f1.com,
I
where
know we're waiting
Haas.
on liveries, but you, you mean the new Russian flag team?
Okay, we'll get into that. It's our team. It's not the American team anymore. It's our
It's
team.
not us. It's our team.
But apparently, there it seems like what I was reading is they're very focused on their 2022 car and with all the changes coming down the way after the season's over, and they might be totally fine with like almost writing off their 2021 season and coming in last. And I kind of think that that's not. I don't know what's going to happen this year. I would hope that they wouldn't, given that they're the American team. But it sounds like we might not see maybe a lot out of Haas for them trying to focus on next year, which I don't know if I don't 100% fault them for. I just hope we still see an interesting season and some action, from Haas, frankly. But I don't know. It's going to be a weird season with the new changes for next year and things happening this year. It's a weird time a little bit.
And
So not
we
quite sure how I feel about it right now.
yep, we will see how this whole thing ends up with Mazepin.
Yeah, moving on down, it seems that Pirelli's confirmed that there's the 9 teams that are going to be testing. I don't know which 9 teams those are off the top of my head, or which one isn't there, frankly. But they're going to be testing, and is it this coming week? I think they're going to be testing, or what week are they testing? Do you know, Nick?
Testing, I believe, begins on the Saturday. Yes, on this
No,
Saturday.
that's testing the new aerodynamics, the new floor designs, the new tire, the new 18-inch wheels being provided by Pirelli this year, and so on and so on. So that's cool to see. Apparently, I've been seeing some reports as well that Porsche, there's often talk about them entering Formula One. It seems like Porsche won't consider an entrance into Formula One until the new engine regulations in 2025 take place. and that the FIA and F1 commits to e-fuel, which would make sense given their new buy-in to Rimac and them making their own biofuel and things like that. So should F1 go much more of a direction of e-fuels, we could see potentially Porsche enter into F1, which listeners know we would love, frankly.
I would have a new favorite team as long as it wasn't, with a Mazepin on it.
Moving on down the way, apparently retains the they what is this? I'm trying to read the F from F1 again.
So
They were
I believe it's their test driver and their
Yeah,
feedback driver.
Jamie Chadwick.
Yep, who is, I believe she was one of the only. Well, she's currently, I believe, the only female driver.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's why it's
Um,
cool. I mean, they retain her, and it's good to see obviously diversity in the sport in any way. Frankly, I mean, it's definitely needed. I think. Yeah,
I
it's
fully
it's
agree.
cool. And we'll see what happens. I think even I think that's definitely the way things are going. I'd like to see. They're obviously a very male dominated sport, F1, and a lot of racing in particular. So they retain her, and yeah, have to see what kind of if we can see some performances out of there. She's been retained as their development driver in 2021. So happy to see that. Good on you, Williams. Good on you. Another Williams thing, frankly, in the news. You told me about Williams mindset and some upgrades that they're already talking about.
Yeah, so they are already talking about doing upgrades to the car before the season has already started. I mean, research and development is already very on its way. They are hoping within the first couple of races to have some upgrades put on the car. So essentially, they're going after the same kind of strategy that Mercedes went with DAS last year.
Mm-hmm.
Not not to say that they are doing DAS, but
Well, that was outlawed by
right with and
stupidly,
they're not
I
doing
might
anything
add.
along those lines. However, they are looking to do some major testing and development and kind of pushing those boundaries, which would make for a very interesting year, especially since they have George Russell on their team.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden we see a Williams car start to compete again, might be some very interesting things coming.
Another interesting point that connecting with Williams and who knows what the future could hold this season and next. Mercedes today announced a new 5-year program called Accelerate 25, which apparently the aim is that for 25% of new starters in their team to come from underrepresented groups until the end of 2025. So I think we've seen Lewis Hamilton talk about initiatives on his own, trying to get more diversity into F1 and racing. And it seems like Mercedes is one of his contract stipulations. I think for this year was a more active role. It seems like Mercedes is already trying to make good on that with this new program. So it's cool to see good initiative from Mercedes right here. I think we'll have to see what kind of results it can yield. Frankly, I hope really great ones, but we'll see. I think it was just announced today. Frankly, I don't know much about it yet, but um, hopefully we'll see history made in the coming years in F1. So I
Yes.
think that hits everything except for the
The
new livery
liveries.
we've seen. So I'm gonna give my quick takes here. We have Williams. I do like Williams' new livery. It's kind of homage to previous winning years back in a little historic. I think. I like Williams a lot. Frankly, I think I'm very impressed by their new livery with the different shades of blue and like whatever the little lines and kind of stuff they have on the rear of the car or the engine cover. And but one downside for them is apparently they had a VR or an AR rather app that would allow the users to have the car I think assemble itself in your like a room. Apparently that was delayed as part of their car debut because it got hacked. So you know interesting, frankly.
Well,
I don't have any
Aston
details
Martin
on
did
that.
too, but it was within 5 minutes of the car being revealed.
Yeah, I mean it's people are gonna be people. It seems like I think Williams still great car. Alpine, I think, as I really like their. as well. Frankly, first livery for Alpine in F1. So I think they did a great job with was that mainly blue, a little bit of red with them as well. I think if I don't remember correctly. Trying to picture the car here.
Yeah,
You can
they've got
pull up
some white mixed in
pictures.
there too. It's essentially going towards the French flag,
Mercedes obviously still looks great. I
of
mean,
course.
definitely a more a
Get
again black focus livery with a little bit of red and their like teal, accenty kind of thing.
Yeah, but it was leaning more towards the what's it called? More towards the silver arrows again, though.
Yeah, except there's a whole bunch of you won't mistake it for AMG this year.
Right.
There's a whole lot of AMG stickers on the back.
Yes.
Seems like they let a toddler kind of have an AMG sticker machine and just slap them all over the rear of the car. But it doesn't look bad. I mean, I kind of miss just like distinctly the silver arrows, but it still looks good. Frankly, I mean, come on, the Merc's always good. Let's be honest. Yeah, Haas. Who do you want to hit? You have any opinions on those three before we hit the last two?
um, not really. I mean, I am happy to see the Williams design. I think Alpine definitely fits for Alpine.
hmm
Um, Merc was
Who do
to
you
be
want to hit?
expected.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe the Merc. It's a subtle changes, and it still always looks good. But yeah, to be expected, I think is a good way to describe that one. Frankly, that's a good call.
Yeah, and then you
I
know,
mean, we might as well hit Aston first. I mean, Aston Aston Martin Cognizant race. I mean, I think that they've got. mm, I mean, I love my Red
besides
Bull
it
team.
looking like Tom Brady was being held at gunpoint during their
Yeah, the whole Tom
presentation.
Brady and even the Daniel, like Tom Brady was saying how I gotta be honest, when I saw like Tom Brady talking, I didn't watch it live, I watched theirs over. I kind of turned it off, quote unquote. I just couldn't stand that. It looks like it was so unnatural. I'm sorry. It's so unnatural. The Daniel Craig one was a little better. Still a little weird in my mind, but they were talking about, how great it is and how cool the cars were and blah.
Well, yeah,
I
and
do have to say, I mean,
I just
come
didn't
on.
understand the Tom Brady part. Daniel Craig,
For
that's
that
one
one,
thing because Daniel Craig is James
James
Bond
Bond.
and
So
drives Aston Martins in every single movie.
I mean, Tom Brady is I think a well-known Aston ambassador. I mean, so I get it, but still weird, frankly. That was the only misstep I
Well, it
think.
was the way they introduced him.
Yeah, but I mean, that set aside,
If it looks
favorite.
fast,
I
it
mean,
probably
of
is
course we
fast.
haven't. Oh, jeez.
And
We haven't
if
seen
it is fast,
Ferraris right yet. They're coming
right?
on March 10th, so in the next couple of days here. But I would expect, in my opinion, I think we're gonna see from Ferrari, just like Merc. It's still gonna be good. Still gonna be red. It's gonna be to be expected, right, from Ferrari.
Now the real question is, how are they going to hide the cigarette ad on this one?
That's a great question. We'll have to see.
Because Mission Winnow did not go over well last year and had to be stripped off the wing. Because Mission
Well,
Winnow, for those of you who don't understand, I don't know if we ever got around. Did we talk about our
I
sponsorships in
think we
F1?
did reference it once,
Yeah,
like a long time ago.
I think when it was back in season 1 of the podcast, which was really just last year,
Mhm.
as we were discussing sponsorships in F1 and how Mission Winnow is really just a cigarette brand.
Yep, Marlboro. Right.
Well, yeah, it was which is Philip Morris International, and if you look at
Yeah.
Mission Winnow and you flip it upside down, it kind of looks like Marlboro, and you go to the website and it's Philip Morris who happens to own Marlboro. What a shocker! It's been on
Well,
the side of the Ferrari cars since
I'll have to try to hide
ever.
that one again, right?
Yeah, so that's the question this year. I mean, that's partially a joke, but also partially not a joke.
True.
Is
I
how are
mean,
they
but I
gonna
think
hide
we
the
still.
cigarette ad on this one?
I feel like the Ferrari cars their liveries always look the same, just red. I mean,
It's
kind of expected.
overwhelmingly Italian red.
Now, I think the last two, we obviously haven't seen Ferrari, but I want to save Haas to the end here real quick. And I love the Aston livery. I really do. It's so good to
It's
see Aston
so
Martin
good.
racing green back on the grid. I will say it's a lot more green than I expected it to be. The only thing that I find myself wishing about it, or that I would personally change, is I think it's not too much. It's just more than I expected. There's not a whole lot of, at least to me,
I
doesn't
actually
look like a whole lot of accent.
I
It's
actually
just
like the
green.
subtle accent of the pink though from BWT.
I agree, and on the racing suits too, with the shoulders,
Yeah.
the yeah, there looks like there's a homage to the pink on the shoulders of and the Aston racing suits are all green too. I mean, it's a great color. It has to be by far. Again, I love my Red Bull team, but oh man, it's gorgeous. I love it. It's my favorite without question. I don't care what Ferrari comes up with; it can't compete, frankly.
No, and again, I think part of it is it's so new
Hmm.
and it's so different. But
Well,
really,
could
in
you
any
argue that it
light,
isn't new though? It's not even new. We see Aston Martin racing green back on the grid. I mean,
well, and
uh,
in specifically just British racing green, which
I technically don't think so. That's what I don't know. Is this
I don't
Aston
know.
Martin racing green? I don't think it's technically British racing green. I think it's a slightly different green.
Yeah, I think British racing green is a different green,
I think it's
but
slightly more foresty, but nonetheless, we still see a form of British or Aston, British racing green right back on the grid. I can't wait. Can't wait to see the thing flying by, and hopefully we'll see some great things. Seb seems to
well,
be
so it's the first time in a very long time we've seen Seb genuinely happy, like smiling, happy, glad to be a part of a team.
cleared out his garage of his Ferrari cars. Hasn't yet filled them with Astons, I think, but we've seen him smile. So I'm looking forward to see what kind of performance Seb can debut here with the
Yeah,
team. So that leaves us with the American team.
our team,
Our team.
the
I have to
communist
say,
team.
I am not a fan at all. Um,
No, it's
I'm not even
literally
a.
just it's a giant Russian flag, and what a shocker! Being that literally
I
Uralkali is
mean,
all over the car.
I think that's already under review because the Russian flag, I believe, is banned for liveries, if I remember correctly, isn't it? I think so.
Is it?
I think so. I'm probably wrong, but I seem to remember reading something about how you can't use a Russian flag on the cars. But I think that's already under review by the FIA and so on. I'm not gonna say. I mean, yes, when I saw it, my first instinct was, I mean, come on, Russian flag. And nothing against the Russian flag. I'm not gonna get into that.
Well,
It,
and they tried to spin it like, oh, it's Russia and America because America's red, white, and blue. No,
but they could
this
have done
is
that so much better. They could have literally. I think Haas in the past has even like divided the car's livery in half for stuff like that before, and I don't like it. Not
well,
even
but
take
if
it.
you look at the front wing, literally the front wing is white, then blue, then red. And what's the
Yeah,
Russian flag? White,
that.
then blue, then red. And
Yeah,
with
there's no
your
way you can spin that. It's red, white, and blue for the U.S. flag, and that's not even the right order, obviously. So
no,
yeah, I don't like
it's
seeing.
clearly
No,
the Russian flag. It's clear that they have just given in to the money.
yep.
Um,
I don't even like. I mean, I was gonna say take away the Russian flag, right? That's clearly the most controversial part. I mean, what I will say, it's a clean design nonetheless, but I don't like it even like everyone's cars this year. Again, not seeing Ferraris yet, right? I like at least the same amount, if not a little bit more or a lot more than last year, right? I don't like this more than last year at all. I really don't. I don't like it past in other years where it's been more of like a last year was it like black on white with or yeah black and white with a little bit of red. Previous years we've seen like black and gray, black and silver with red, and they look cool. I don't like this one. Even take away the Russian whatever part of it. It's just clean lines, yeah, but I think it's boring. I don't like it even compared to last year. I just don't like it. I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't. And then you add the whole controversial parts to it, right? That doesn't help. So
yeah, which
and you add the fact that they're going to potentially like write off 2021 to prepare for 2022. I mean, I don't know what to expect out of Haas this year. Frankly, I don't. I really don't. Plus, obviously drivers and I didn't want to get into all this, but I don't know. You have any thoughts? So I don't. Yeah, I don't want to go down too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Any
I
thoughts
don't want
on
to
it?
go too far down the rabbit hole either, but essentially WADA banned
Yeah.
the flag from being used. Um, Mazepin, obviously, whose dad is bankrolling Haas right now,
Yeah.
as little as anybody from Haas will admit it, he is clearly bankrolling it. I mean, his name's all over the car. They have what, 2 sponsors, Uralkali and 1-1, but
Hang on. Couple smaller sponsors. Nope.
Pirelli
Nope.
and Haas. And
Um. Yeah,
there
that's
is
about it.
more
Yeah,
Uralkali
that's
on
about
this
it.
car than there is Haas.
I wouldn't go. Haas at least has bigger typing.
It's on the wing and it's underneath the number.
Well, but Haas is on top of the wing and bigger below the number. I mean,
Yeah, but
I don't know.
the front wing, the side of the
I just
car, the
don't
side of the
like it.
engine bay, the
I
rear
really
wing.
don't.
No,
I don't. I just
it's
don't.
bad. It's overall I don't like it. Um,
At best, it's boring. At best, it took the white too far. Like I
well,
think
at
Alpha
best
did it well, where it's
at
white on red, and they have enough red to offset the white. At best, minus the rush of whatever, it's too white. I mean,
here
and come on, like the
here's what
freaking
I'll
colors
say.
aren't even in the right order for
At
an American owned team.
best, it is a default livery in the F1 video game.
That says it all.
At
Oh
best,
man.
it is a default livery in the F1 video game.
I don't want to get you want to go. I don't. I feel like we can get stuck here the entire time. I
Yeah,
want to round out. Yeah,
let's move on. Let's hear the pun for this week.
To be honest, I'm so upset. I don't really think I have one. To be honest, actually, you
Alright.
know what? Let me take my travel voucher from my lost luggage
Jesus
and
Christ.
head down the jetway.
All right. Down the jetway it is.
I gotta get
Uh,
better at these. That's why. Usually I think of
that one was
something before
rough,
we
I'm not going to
start, but I'm
lie.
so just frustrated. That was the best I can come up with on the spot.
All right. Well, unfortunately, on a very sad note,
Yeah.
Olivier Dassault, very famous, wealthy billionaire from France.
And before you say it, I'm surprised at how the lack of news coverage on this, frankly,
I
that
believe it's
we
only 15
haven't
hours
seen.
old at time of recording. So
What's that?
I believe the incident is only 15 hours old at the time of recording.
I mean, but still,
But yeah.
the name, I mean, the name alone and how like fame, quote unquote. I'm still surprised I haven't seen it plastered everywhere, but it's unfortunate nonetheless.
Well, Olivier, I believe, French.
Yeah.
Olivier Dassault was unfortunately killed in a helicopter accident earlier today in France. He is the grandson of the original Dassault Falcon creator. Dassault is one of the largest private jet and small business jet manufacturers in the world. They play with the Bombardiers and the Embraers and the Lears of the world.
The pillars of the business jet world, and it's definitely it's definitely tragic.
And pioneers in the trijet business. So very, very unfortunate. Obviously, our hearts and thoughts go out to
Thoughts
them.
and prayers. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Wow. Yeah. Kind of. Maybe we should have held that one to the end, frankly. But moving on maybe a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, a little bit different, totally different. Seems that flight's getting a little bit back to normal-ish, or the new normal, recovering from pandemic levels of aviation and or commercial flight, and we're back to the original pilot shortage we were already in pre-pandemic.
yes. Sorry, I was taking a sip of water there.
Yeah, so I think you were telling me about this, and I mean I knew about it before, and you did a great job explaining. It seems like before
pre-COVID,
before the pandemic,
there was already, we were coming into a pilot shortage. There's just not
pre-pandemic,
not nearly
right
as
before
enough pilots who are getting their license as those who are retiring and turning, well, not necessarily turning their license in, but quitting commercial aviation or
inflow
aging out
doesn't
due to
match
retirement.
outflow.
Yeah,
essentially, right?
exactly. And people haven't been as interested in, you know, being a commercial airline pilot. And before
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened, it was very, very difficult to be an airline pilot. I know quite a few airline pilots. It doesn't really matter the company or, or what kind of plane you're flying. I mean, being an airline pilot was really rough. And then COVID
Mm-hmm.
happened and you got some work here and there. But now we're definitely seeing, as travel is opening back up, we are getting um, we're getting close to that negative balance again,
Yeah.
where we just don't have enough pilots coming in.
Well, because they weren't needed during COVID levels of flight, and now they're getting back to normal. So we're back to quote unquote the normal shortage, and
Right.
maybe we did talk about last week that there's been a big uptick. Schools have seen a lot of uptick in right, and new students or enrollments, right? In that in part due to the new Microsoft Flight Sim. So maybe there could be on the horizon a whole bunch of new pilots. Frankly, hopefully.
Potentially, but that, I mean, it takes
That's I mean, yeah, that's not
it's
obviously
going
not
to
going to
take
be
a lot of
recent, right?
time before anybody,
Yeah.
that started today gets to the point where they're flying a 737 for United.
Yeah, it's absolutely not overnight. So
So
it's who knows?
it's
Like anything
thousands
else,
of
the market
hours.
will adapt.
So
But question is, how will it adapt? How we'll have to see. They'll have to make it work, right? Demand and I think we'll see demand for commercial aviation. People, are get vaccinated and are more comfortable going places. So we'll have to see what happens at least in the short term, right?
right.
It's gonna be interesting for sure. With that, you have a couple other things you want in here.
Yeah. Just quick hits, real quick in this section. So Amazon, obviously with their Prime Air, buying in huge shares of Atlas Air, which is the largest North American cargo transporter, and I believe either the first or second largest cargo transporter and people mover in the world.
Mm.
As well as Sun Country, who is also, both of which currently operate Prime Air as a livery of theirs and operate on contract for Amazon. Amazon is returning that investment and buying into those companies as well, somewhere in the range of $131 million a piece, I believe I read.
Wow.
Which for Amazon is next to nothing, but it's about
That's like
20. It's
nothing.
about 20% share in Sun Country, and I'm not sure how much in Atlas, but pretty significant number.
They're just extending their grip.
Yeah,
It's
and this
kind of
comes
crazy.
after, you know, Jeff Bezos is stepping back from all of that.
It's a
So
brave new world. So
mhm.
many things are changing. It's hard to see what happens. I
uh,
think it's cool. I mean, to see what kind of trends we're going to see shift in the market, especially with
well,
Amazon's,
and Atlas
might.
has been huge in transporting
Yeah.
vaccines.
This is an interesting game that I think it's cool to watch it
Maybe
unfold,
you'll be able
frankly.
to
But
order your COVID vaccine on Amazon next day air.
I better if it's not delivered to me by drone from a overhead flying Prime Air airframe, I'm gonna be unsatisfied. I want to hear within an hour. I live close enough to O'Hare.
I don't know if you really want that, but anyway,
No, I don't.
um,
I really don't. But you know what I mean.
yeah. Um, also, we talked. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I
About
think I think it was I
two
think it was
two.
last week. Did we not?
Nah, it was 2 weeks ago. Looking at it now.
Okay.
Arthur Air, the electric air taxi.
Yeah.
Uh, they've got some new competition from a company called Joby Aviation, Joby. Uh, very similar electric vertical takeoff and landing, air taxi.
Mm-hmm.
They are going after the American and like the Star Alliance section those companies, they're going for that kind of route instead
Yeah.
of the. Uh, I'm sorry, United is Star Alliance, so it would be American would be what? I forget.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I forget which. Oh, it's One World. I'm sorry, it's the One World
Yeah.
Aviation. So they're gonna go after kind of that market. Um, for those of you who don't know and are not very caught up on aviation, um, most airlines, with the exception of a lot of the low budget airlines, uh, come together and create these kind of airline packs almost.
Big consortiums, yeah.
Yeah, so
Ooh, now that
so
I
like
can use that word.
Star Alliance is got United as their kind of one of their larger ones. Air Canada is in there. Lufthansa's in there. Um, a lot of airlines around the world that can work together. You can use your reward points on any of them to make sure, and they all work together. So if you need to get from Chicago to Hamburg, Germany, and there's not a direct flight, you can stop in. You can take a United flight to Newark Liberty International, and then get on a Lufthansa flight to Hamburg or anything like that. It opens up a lot for the actual traveler, and then obviously they can share in each other's profits.
Yeah. That's smart on their part.
American is part of One World. We have Delta as a part of the Sky Team. And then you get someone like a Southwest, which is because they're such a budget company on their own and they have enough people using them as a budget airline, they have their own team. So they're they just call theirs Rapid Rewards. And it's I believe the only member of Rapid Rewards is Southwest Airlines.
Yeah.
Spirit's the same way. Ryanair is the same way overseas. EasyJet, I believe, is the same way. So you see a lot of that. So Joby's going after the One World Alliance to see what they can do there. I know we also saw NetJets getting a partnership with Arian.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Arian, those who might not, I think arguably most known for supersonic, not the, that I don't think is the right. No, actually, no, I think it is. Yeah, they're big into supersonic jet travel, and apparently NetJets. I mean, NetJets is I think was the first one to like to do what is it called? Like not timeshare, but fractional ownership. I think right.
Yeah,
I think they were one of the leaders in the fractional game for private aviation, and they have a new partnership with Ariane for specifically the. They will become the exclusive jet operator for their Ariane's global mobility platform, which is Ariane Connect, which is basically their intent for point to point travel with speed and luxury with supersonic jets. Apparently, they have also obtained the right to purchase 20 AS2 supersonic business jets from Ariane Supersonic. And I didn't know this, but the AS2 will be the first certified aircraft. This is per NetJets. The AS2 will be the first certified aircraft designed for net zero CO2 operating emissions, which aligns with a larger effort by NetJets for and sustainability and their commitment to that. So it's pretty big news there. We'll have to see what that partnership and how that takes form in the future. But I mean, I'm all for supersonic flight, so it sounds pretty cool. Big move by NetJets. Not really big move, but big report is good old Bombardier, the Challenger 350. Mid-sized business jet for the 7th year in a row is now the most delivered mid-sized business jet. So, great congratulations to Bombardier for the venerable Challenger 350 success.
yes.
Another cool thing, I think, a lot of military stuff. I think to end here, and some stuff off in the stars. You see that Nick about the Boeing's new helicopter replacement for the I believe the Black Hawk was
Um,
it?
you're talking about the military helicopter.
Yeah. Unless
Yes.
you know of a civilian Black Hawk that I can go by.
No. No.
So
Ah,
apparently, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called the Defiant X. It's a partnership between
it's
Boeing
Sikorsky
and
and Boeing.
yeah, Sikorsky and Boeing. And apparently, they've designed it looks awesome. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's got yeah. It's what I find really interesting is this new Defiant X will fly faster, farther, with better maneuverability than the Blackhawk, and they've also designed it to fit within the same storage space requirements that the current Blackhawk does. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of modification that the U.S. Army needs to even store or house these new airframes. So I think it looks really cool. I think Blackhawk is arguably one of the most, I mean, what the most successful um, helicopter, I guess, military
Yeah,
helicopter.
it's by
I
far the
mean,
most popular platform. I mean,
yeah, over
right
the
after the
U.S.
Huey
history.
and the Little Bird
Yeah,
in Vietnam, when it came to Operation Desert Storm and so on.
yeah, especially everyone knows a
It
Blackhawk. I mean,
yeah.
I think everyone you don't have to know about. I think like some of the two most recognizable helicopters would be what the Apache and the Blackhawk. Frankly, are knowing nothing about anything helicopter related still. So it's cool to see a potential upgrade coming down the pipeline from Boeing and Sikorsky. So
Yeah.
moving on down, did you see that the U.S. Air Force has put out an official contract for reverse engineering stealth bomber parts?
I heard something about that. I have not had a chance to look into it.
Well, I did. And I think it's cool, but apparently the B2 no is it B2 stealth bomber? What's the official name? Can't
the
remember.
well, I don't.
Um,
I mean, there's the B two bomber, but
And no, hang on. I'm thinking of hang on, the wrong planey plane. That's my new word for planes.
well,
Yeah, it's a B2. Yeah, it's a B2 stealth bomber. The really cool, like futuristic black triangle looking one. Essentially, by the way, it's a $2.4 billion bomber because of all the just futuristic tech in there. And the technological achievements of that airframe are just immense, and I
oh,
love it.
I'm thinking of the B1 Lancer.
Yeah. So that the B2 bomber apparently there's an official government contract out for a standard reverse engineering job for the two of the heat exchangers because there's numerous things on that aircraft that could need cooling with radar or whatever equipment. It's a feat of engineering that entire thing. But apparently, it seems that potentially the B2 bomber was so secretive that maybe they lost the plans along the way. Tooling no longer exists to make these things, and they now have to literally reverse engineer some of the heat exchangers from the B2 bomber. So maybe I don't know why officially why they have to do so, but I just find that kind of interesting that this incredible, this incredible airframe they have to take some parts out and reverse engineer them because they need more of these heat exchangers. I think it's interesting, frankly. I don't know how all that works, but I would love to know where the plans went for these heat exchangers because apparently they don't seem to exist. So
Well, I would assume that out of any plane that has to get tested at Area 51 before it. you know.
Oh man, moving on. Another Air FA-18C has been retired officially by the Marine Corps. So I think that the old FA-18C has officially been retired from the last I think Nimitz aircraft carrier on in the U.S. fleet. So for those who might not know, the Navy still operates the upgraded FA, bigger, slightly like bigger, upgraded, newer FA-18 Hornets, I think officially. But and the replacement for the Marines FA-18Cs is supposed to be the F-35B, I believe, is their replacement, or is it the C? I can't remember. Would you happen to know, Nick, for sure?
For the Marine Corps, I believe it would be the FA-18C because the C is the carrier.
See, hang on, I can find out. Or I thought that I had something saved here to look at, but essentially, the F-35 is supposed to be that replacement, and COVID that the FA-18C is actually being retired 3 years after apparently it was supposed to be by the Marines because they were essentially waiting out instead of buying the newer, Hornets like the Navy did. They were essentially holding out for the F-35, their variant of it, and
Yeah, it would be the F-35C because it's the
I find
carrier.
that very interesting though because it's definitely an era, and I think the FA-18C has seen every major theater of war since its debut in the 80s. I'm thinking maybe the 80s or when was the I don't even know when the airframe. It's an old air. It's not like it's a new airplane, frankly, but it's a historic thing to mention. Though I find interesting is the U.S. Air Force has also, I think, officially admitted that the F-35 is also the program's also a failure. I think, frankly, we want to talk about this for a couple of weeks now, right? But reading an article that the F-35. I think I have it here in our content stuff that I can pull up. I think it was the U.S. Air Force that officially, or rather quietly, admitted that the F-35 is a failure, and essentially, that platform is so expensive. There's so many problems with it. It's so, so it missed so many deadlines and dates, and it's the next generation air dominance fighter, and I think there was a good example that I saw where they're comparing like the F-35 to like a Ferrari kind of idea where you don't drive a Ferrari every day. You drive it on Sunday, right? And you don't want to waste your Ferrari of the sky when you might not need all that it can offer. So they don't really quite need a fifth generation aircraft. What they really need is like a 4.5 generation or even the new sixth generation. So I think everyone kind of already knew this though. Would you agree, Nick, that
Yeah,
F-35 hasn't panned out the way it's supposed to be able to? And it sounds like the Marines, though, will be replacing their FA-18Cs with their variant of the F-35s. I find that a little interesting because we'll have to see if they replace them again with a different airframe because F-35 is not. I think that the most it's from Extreme Tech. It's an article that was a couple of weeks ago written by Joel Hruska on February 25th of this year. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me from the article was where he says, where is it? The aircraft wasn't supposed to be a Ferrari. It was built explicitly, loudly, and repeatedly as the single platform that could fill any mission requirement and satisfy virtually any mission profile outside of something a B-2 would handle. Instead, the Air Force, Marines, and Navy all have adjusted plans at various times to keep older aircraft in service due to delays and problems with the F-35. And here's the huge kicker. I want to find there was some percentages that they quoted about its mission readiness essentially. Let me see if I can find them here. I think it kind of tells the proper story rather. I just gotta find them.
yeah.
Did you read the article, Nick, or no?
I did not have a chance to. I was gonna lean back
Yeah.
on you on this
So the
one.
last thing I'll say on it is the F-35 to say the putting the author to say the F-35 has failed to deliver on its goals would be an understatement. Its mission capable rate is 69% below the 80% benchmark set by the military. 36% of the F-35 fleet is available for any required mission, well below the required 50% standard. That kind of says it all. Plus the development problems, and there's tons of equipment that keeps going out and having issues, and there's supply chain issues, and it's all over the place. So it's a cool airframe. Definitely not what it was supposed to be. So we'll have to see if there's another 4.5 generation fighter or the new sixth generation fighter being rumored. I don't know. We'll have to see. I wonder what that would be if the Marines will be ordering different aircraft, frankly. But yeah, I think
Yep.
it's cool. I've always loved the aircraft. You know that, so I follow it a lot, and it's kind of sad, frankly, in my opinion, but not surprising in the least.
No.
Well, with
Um.
that, to round out here, I think actually today, I think only a couple more things. This is something you put in here. We have some things space related today as well. something about NASA with to finish us off for the episode today. I think something you said about zero net carbon emissions in
Yeah,
NASA.
so NASA is investing, and they're going in on with some consortiums in on it, but they are leading the charge in a zero net carbon emission standard. Whether that is a biofuel, an electric thrust system, they're going to start doing the research at the direction of the really the way that U.S. Congress and the current president Joe Biden's going.
Mm-hmm.
That they are definitely looking into the usability of a zero net carbon flight plan, and that's for commercial, but obviously going to start more specifically the they want to start it with space travel, and then
Mm-hmm.
move it into aerospace, and then move it into aeronautics in general.
It's kind of the way
So
racing goes, right? You see, like ABS debuted on race cars and then trickles down to the consumer market. So,
yeah,
space flight is like your racing compared to the awe of regular flight, frankly. But I mean, if anyone's gonna lead the charge, I mean, I'll put my money behind NASA. They landed a rover on Mars, so I think they
right.
know what they're doing for the most part.
That was the most incredible thing I saw last week, is that people were complaining about the live stream from Mars being laggy. We're live streaming
I actually
from
have some
Mars.
comments about that as the last thing for today. I do want to hit something with space. I think we haven't talked about SpaceX in a while. Something I found that their Starship 9 test flight that they did a while ago, or
Right,
8, I think 8. They've been an 8 and a 9 and now a 10. Apparently, they performed the Starship 8 test flight that exploded right when it came back for re-entry to land
right,
um, without FAA approval. So that's an ongoing investigation with the FAA. So they might not be very happy with Tesla. But Tesla actually, essentially, they completed a test flight with their Starship 10 rocket, and everything looked to be going according to plan. I'm not sure if you saw the stream, Nick, but I was watching it live, and or as live as what I think the YouTube was slightly behind the video, but I was watching it via YouTube, and the rocket landed back on the landing pad, so they proved that their Starship could land, but it looked like a fire started or kept burning after the rocket boosters had fired in about like the skirt of the rocket, and it just like about 10 minutes later it exploded. So their Starship 8, didn't land successfully and blew up when it hit the landing pad. Same thing essentially with Starship 9, and Starship 10 landed and it still blew up. So still steps forward. As this I think is an example that Tesla wants to serve as, you know, proof of concept for supersonic flight, around the Earth, taking, astronauts to the moon and eventually, humans to Mars. So it's just another step forward, but man, did it suck to see that thing blow up. So unfortunately, there is some success there, but also still some things they got to go back to the drawing board for. But they'll get it right. I think.
yeah.
The last thing I think I want to cover for us before we leave here is something really really cool that I haven't talked a whole lot about is the Mars rover, Perseverance rover. So
Yeah.
I did notice what you're talking about with people complaining about a
What's
fuzzy
the live
image
scene?
from Mars.
I'm like, not to mention, how many years ago did we launch this thing? Uh,
From it's from how many millions of,
yeah, it's Mars.
although it does I do have to ask the question, why is it that we can get pretty clear images from a rover on Mars, but every bank teller or any bank photo or camera that shows someone who robbed the bank and have you seen this man is fuzzier than an image from Mars? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I can tell you exactly why. In most cases, it comes down to the camera on Perseverance is, oh, I don't know, probably $1 million camera, and the one
My point still stands.
okay, I get it.
that is pretty cool. I think there are some updates from the Mars rover. Again, incredible achievement. That's I think we want to end on this is it's amazing what humans can put their minds to accomplish, right? And we've actually seen some, that stream might have been fuzzy, but the Perseverance rover actually has a really old. I was reading an article. I can't remember from who, but not the Mars rover does have 4K image technology on board, and it's been sending back, and NASA has been releasing some actually pretty incredible looking photos that are well worth going to Google and trying to find and see. They're incredible. It's an understatement. And what I found amazing is I believe Perseverance, the rover, has recorded the first, I think, sounds from Mars. And it might not sound like much, but it's essentially wind blowing across its microphone. And again, that might not sound like a whole lot, but you gotta think about it. The first, I believe, again, the first sounds recorded from Mars. That's incredible.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't.
absolutely.
It's just amazing. It really is. I listeners know that I love space travel, and I always have since I was a kid. I love astronomy, and the fact that we have Martian wind on recording is just like kind of makes me gives me goosebumps a little bit. It's incredible. So there's a lot more to come. I think that the Perseverance rover is specifically looking for ancient, biological life in the like what we assume are like dried up river or dried up lakes. I believe it has its own drone as well to help investigate paths, and so we'll see that kind of new technology as well. It's incredible what NASA has accomplished, frankly, with the rover. Yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts, Nick, but it's so I can't urge you guys enough who are listening to go look at the images being shared by NASA from this rover. They are incredible. They are absolutely incredible, and I just can't wait to see more to come. I really, 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 really am really happy, frankly.
Yeah, and I know that's definitely more your alley than mine, but I am legitimately excited to see what else we get out of
Yeah.
this.
The
So,
last thing I do want to say about the rover that I found even cooler is this brand new state of the art rover that they sent to freaking Mars, and I think cost somewhere in the realm of like $2.7 billion. I think just for the rover itself. I'm not sure if that's the whole mission. You would think that and all the stuff that they have it like this thing running, with the. I mean, they've sent other rovers up there before, right? But the Ingenuity, I think, is what the copter is named. Apparently, this rover, Perseverance, is the most advanced machine that's ever landed on Mars, and it's being controlled by it's running on a quote powered PC 750, a single core processor that has just 6 million transistors and is famous for being the processor that powered the Bondi Blue iMac from 1998. This rover is being powered by a processor from 1998.
and I can tell you right now,
That's so
I
cool.
believe that's actually the time when my dad was working as a database designer for NASA.
Your phone has more power than this rover.
Yeah, and it's reliable. Like
I think
the
I think
rover's a
that's
lot
why
more
they
reliable
did.
than my phone.
From what I was reading about it is NASA went with that chip because it's historic reliability versus state of the art. They wanted something obviously to last a long time that was reliable and would run in the Martian environment. Come on. Sometimes humans can are really amazing, frankly, and this is just
That processor, if I'm understanding this correctly, that processor is the Nokia early 2000s Nokia brick phone of processors.
pretty much.
So I can understand why they decided to do that.
They say sure. The article I'm reading from The Verge. I had to look it up on the top to quote it properly. It says that it might seem like a waste to some. After all, even with the difficulty of buying computer parts these days, surely NASA could have found the budget for something like Intel's $500 Core i9 CPU with 10 cores and a clock speed of 5.3 gigahertz, somewhere in the $2.7 billion cost of Perseverance. Oh, I think this is hilarious. I'm sorry, I really do. But apparently, advanced chips might not be as reliable. They're sending I don't know, I think it's like 140 million miles away. Sending something 140 million miles away, it better work, and it better work for a long time.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, cool. I think that's all I got. Wanted to get that. So, unless you have anything else for this week, man.
No,
Um,
I think we're gonna skip fuel for thought this week. We are way beyond our time.
Gotta stop finding so many things that catch our eye during the week.
I know. Either that
Well,
or
I
what?
think if nothing else is there, then that brings us to the checkered flag on this week. We hope you guys enjoyed yet another week with tons of stuff that we found interesting throughout the past week. Sorry for the delay. One more thing I'd like to say is I believe today is International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all of the women out there in the world who basically make the world run, right? With that, I think you guys know you can reach out to us at podcast@redlineresorts.com, as well as all of our social media handles at Redline Resorts on all the platforms. And with that, I'm Matt along with Nick, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you
Thanks for
guys
tuning
next week.
in.